Discover the incredible life-changing journey of a homeless woman and a hidden old mattress. Maggie was on the brink. Her life had shattered like glass underfoot. Once a vibrant muralist, whose colorful strokes breathed life into the walls of her small American city, she now navigated the suffocating silence of urban alleys. The chill of the night seeped into her bones as she wrapped her worn coat tightly around herself. Struggling to escape the grip of an abusive partner, she'd left everything behind, including her beloved son, now safe with relatives far away. The piercing loneliness was haunting. Every empty street echoed her desperation. In the darkest corner of her life, Maggie stumbled upon a forgotten, worn-out mattress, haphazardly discarded in the alley. It lay there like a hidden treasure, inviting yet filled with history. At first, it seemed merely a refuge from the cold, a place to lay her head for a moment's peace. But underneath her tired body, it transformed into something larger. It became her canvas, a symbol of the fight for her dignity and self-worth. With her hands trembling, she imagined vibrant colors swirling around her, reflecting the fire she still held within. Maggie painted freely, pouring her emotions onto the fabric of that mattress. Swirling blues and reds mingled together like dreams interspersed with memories. Charlie, a kind-hearted retired veteran, watched from a distance. He, too, had felt the sting of being forgotten, an invisible man wandering the bustling streets. One chilly evening, he ventured closer, his heart swelling as he recognized the raw talent in Maggie's hands. They shared stories over shared meal scraps, weaving intricacies of grief and hope, laughter and pain, two souls stitched together by their struggles. But just as her artistry flourished, the drumbeats of progress drummed louder. Plans for a new development threatened the small businesses and lives woven into the community's fabric. Tension crackled in the air, like static before a storm. Elders and youth united in a chorus of protest, their voices rising against impending changes. Yet weak and weary, Maggie found herself lingering in the shadows, straddling the line between fear and longing. Could she step out from her veil of hardship and embrace the fight that beckoned? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she stood on that mattress, brush in hand, colors exploding around her, Maggie realized this was her moment. With each stroke, she was not just decorating a mattress, she was declaring her existence. The mural came alive with symbols of resilience, of dreams deferred, and the hope of tomorrow, fighting against the heaviness of shame and stigma. As the vibrant art drew curious onlookers, murmurs surged through the crowd. Would they acknowledge her struggle? Would they see her as more than a homeless woman? The air thickened with anticipation as she framed the finished mural against the walls of her community. She watched with bated breath, hearts and eyes opening like petals in spring. Could this hidden mattress, now woven with resilience, become the very foundation for rebuilding her shattering life? Her heart raced, aching for hope, as the weight of the moment pressed down like a second skin. Would she inspire change, or would she be swallowed by the tide of a growing city that seemed intent on forgetting her? As the crowd began to gather, whispers filled the air. Maggie could hear people exchanging glances, wondering about the woman behind the vivid colors that danced like flames across her makeshift canvas. She closed her eyes for a moment, allowing the energy of the crowd to swell around her. They had come, those curious souls, strangers, who had been mere silhouettes against her own struggle, now brightening her world with their presence. Who did this? A voice called out, incredulity threading through the words. Maggie's heart fluttered. Could they really want to know? She stepped forward, paint-smeared hands nervously brushing against her coat. "I did. It's a reflection of hope," she said softly, but her voice trembled. From the back, an elderly woman approached, tears glimmering in her eyes. "It's beautiful, dear. You've poured your heart into this." Her warm smile cradled Maggie's insecurities, making her feel seen in a way she hadn't seen in years. Encouraged, Maggie took a step closer to the mural, gesturing toward the swirls of color that depicted struggles she thought were buried in dark corners of her mind. "It's all here," she whispered, her voice gaining strength. "The pain, the fighting spirit, the dreams I still hold onto." The atmosphere shifted. More people moved closer, enthralled by her story told through color. Maggie felt their energy converging on her, a collective heartbeat pulsating with empathy. Charlie stood off to the side, pride swelling in his chest, knowing the courage it had taken for Maggie to share her truth. Yet, amid the smiles and admiration, Maggie suddenly felt a shadow emerge. A man in a sharp suit stepped forward, face unreadable, a clipboard clasped in his hand. "I see what you've created here. It's impressive," he said, though his tone was flat, as if measuring art like numbers on a budget sheet. "But we're planning to renovate this entire block." Her heart sank. The weight of that sentence felt like a hammer striking a fragile glass. Renovate? Did that mean her mural would be washed away, her moment of recognition extinguished? Panic clawed at her chest. "You don't understand. This isn't just paint. It's a lifeline." Charlie stepped forward, emboldened. "This community needs voices like Maggie's," he said firmly. "It's not just about the buildings. It's about the people. This mural speaks for those who have been silenced." The crowd began to murmur in agreement, rallying behind Maggie's heart. Maggie swallowed hard, her pulse racing. With every word exchanged, the potential for change illuminated before her. They were all rallying for something more significant. But could she be the one to lead this charge, to transform her personal struggle into a fight for others like her? Just then, a little girl tugged at her sleeve, her eyes wide in wonder. "Will you paint more?" she asked, innocence radiating from her small frame. The question hung in the air, a simple query that felt monumental. Maggie knelt down, meeting the girl's gaze. "Yes," she said slowly, "but I might need help." The crowd erupted in excitement, and Maggie felt the spark of hope begin to ignite. The mural was about more than just survival. It was a call to arms, a rallying cry for the community. But what would that entail, and were they ready to stand together against the impending tide of change? As the man in the suit scribbled on his clipboard and looked around uneasily, Maggie felt an electric pulse of determination surge through her. Together, they could fight for more than just a piece of art. They could battle for their very identities. With her heart pounding like a drum in her chest, Maggie drew in a breath, her gaze lifting to the mural that had become the beacon of hope. Would they take that leap together? The answer loomed large in the air, floating above the mingling voices and painted dreams. And as Maggie felt their collective potential rise, she realized the battle had just begun. Would this be the change that echoed in the heart of their community, or would it all come crashing down before its time? Maggie's heart raced as the crowd buzzed around her. Each whisper felt like a promise, each nod a testament to her journey. The man in the suit shifted uncomfortably, his authority challenged by the growing wave of support. She felt the pulse of the crowd, the tight-knit aura of shared stories and struggles weaving around her like a warm blanket. "May I ask why you plan to renovate?" Charlie stepped forward again, a slight frown etched on his brow. "These walls have a history. They tell stories, stories worth preserving." His voice held a quiet strength that filled Maggie with resolve. The man in the suit adjusted his glasses, the reflection glinting like a shield. "Progress is imperative. We want to bring in new businesses, and that requires," he hesitated, glancing at the mural as if it were a rival. "A fresh start." Maggie's stomach churned. A fresh start? For whom? But we are here. We're right here, she said, her voice rising with fervor. This mural connects us. It brings hope to people like me, who've struggled to find a voice. She could feel the emotion swelling from deep within, reaching for the crowd. Then, someone in the back shouted, "We won, let them take it away." The crowd echoed the sentiment, hands clapping in agreement. The passion was swelling, and Maggie felt it she was no longer alone. This was larger than her. This was their shared reality. Suddenly, the little girl tugged at Maggie's sleeve again. "Can we paint together? Make it bigger, make it shine?" The innocence of her words sliced through the tension like a knife, lighting sparks of inspiration in Maggie's heart. "Yes," she exclaimed, excitement bubbling within her. "We can invite everyone. A community mural." Maggie envisioned it vividly, an entire wall covered in voices, colors, dreams, and stories intertwined into one beautiful tapestry. Her gaze swept over the crowd, capturing their eager faces. "Together, we can tell our stories. We can show that our community matters. Let us write our history and our dreams on this wall." The energy shifted. People began to raise their voices in agreement, talking over one another, filled with ideas and hope. The man in the suit seemed overwhelmed, taking short breaths as the crowd surged forward, an unstoppable force. "You don't understand," he stammered. "No," Maggie interrupted, stepping closer, her voice slicing through the doubts. "You don't understand. This isn't just about paint. This is about our lives." As if ignited by her declaration, more voices joined in, sharing snippets of their own struggles and dreams. A story emerged, a tale of resilience binding them together. Nearby, an artist shared stories of despair and rebirth. Another recounted memories of laughter amidst chaos. Maggie sensed she was standing at the precipice of something bigger than her personal journey. It was a movement, alive and breathing. Then the elderly woman from earlier spoke again, her voice steady and piercing through the noise. "What if we tell the world who we are? They pushed us away. Now it's time to stand together. Let them see us, feel us." Maggie's breath hitched with emotion. The crowd erupted with a roar of approval, fists raised in solidarity. They were ready. She realized they were more than just faces in the crowd. They were a collective heart beating with purpose. With renewed determination, she envisioned the mural taking shape, one that would outlive them all. Yet as the cheers continued, Maggie wondered, what would the pushback be? Would the authorities listen? Would they be met with more trouble? Time would tell if their voices could rise louder than the plans for renovation. As hope surged, a knot of fear mixed with exhilaration. Could they really change anything? Could this mural truly be the beginning of a larger battle? The uncertain future stretched out ahead of them, tantalizing yet daunting, like a canvas waiting to be painted. Would it stand the test of time, or would it wither before it bloomed? The sun dipped low in the sky, casting warm hues across the crowd. The energy was electric. Vibrancy filled the air like an unspoken promise. Maggie stood at the center, heart pounding, as the roar of approval enveloped her. She felt the weight of their stories, a tapestry waiting to be woven. "Let us start right away," someone called out, a painter's brush already brandished in hand. The movement rippled through the crowd, inspired souls stepping forward. Families, students, artists, their faces were a mix of determination and hope. This was their chance to mark their history. Charlie was quick to organize the volunteers, assigning colors and spaces on the mural. "Let us do this," he shouted, and the atmosphere changed instantly. Laughter and excitement filled the air, drowning the afternoon in unity. Maggie stood back for a moment, taking in the sight of the strangers becoming friends, all gathered for one purpose. She couldn't help but smile when she glanced down at the little girl beside her. "What colors do you want to use?" "Pink and blue. And gold for the stars. Can we put some flowers?" The girl beamed, the excitement sparking in her eyes. Yes, flowers everywhere, Maggie replied, the enthusiasm igniting a vision in her mind, petals brightening the mural, helping hearts bloom. As they divided into groups, Maggie grabbed a brush and joined the little girl. Together, they brushed colors across the canvas, each stroke a story, a memory. The smell of paint mixed with the laughter echoed around them, an anthem of their collective spirit. People began to gather nearby, drawn by the joyful chaos. Some carried snacks, while others brought more paint supplies. Parents encouraged their children to immerse themselves in the creativity. Maggie felt those familiar butterflies surge, mingling with adrenaline. She was leading not just for herself, but for everyone who believed in the canvas of hope they were creating. Yet amidst the laughter, a hush fell over the crowd when the man in the suit finally gathered his composure. He stepped closer, a scowl etched across his face. "This is not how we'll do things here," he asserted, his voice slicing through the air, demanding attention. Maggie felt a shift in energy, tension tightening like a spring. The brush felt heavier in her hand now. She glanced at the faces around her. Expressions changed from joy to concern, and a new wave of uncertainty rippled through them. She knew they could not back down. "Excuse me," Maggie called out, her voice steady even with a rush of anxiety bubbling up inside her. "This is not just paint on a wall to us. It's our identity. We are here to claim our stories, not to erase them." The man's face grew redder, the tension palpable. "You think this will stop change? People want progress. This is outdated." "For whom?" A voice emerged from the crowd, strong and unwavering. It was the elderly woman, her spirit undeterred by age. "Progress doesn't mean pushing us aside. It's about building bridges with our past, with our present." The crowd murmured in agreement, anger and pride igniting the air. Maggie felt a powerful swell of emotion. This wasn't just her stand any longer, it was theirs. The crowd shifted closer, fortified by her determination. "Let them see us, let them feel us," Maggie's heart cried out, her voice unwavering. "You may see a wall, but we see our heritage, our resilience." As the man hesitated, she sensed a momentary flicker of doubt passing over him. Could he really make the crowd silent again? Would they bow in defeat? But then something surprising happened. The elderly woman reached out, and others followed, forming a protective circle around the mural, a barrier of community, brimming with passion. The man's composure wavered further, his brows furrowing as he looked around. In that moment, Maggie understood. It wasn't just about the mural. It was about who they all were, their histories, their struggles, their lives intertwined. The evening sun cast a golden light over them, and Maggie's heart soared with hope. They were more than a crowd, they were a living story. But would that story be enough to overcome the challenge posed by the man in the suit? What would happen if he refused to budge? Would they really risk everything to stand up for their mural, their identity? The canvas remained untouched, waiting for the outcome to unfold. Maggie's heart raced as she caught the flicker of uncertainty in the man's eyes. He was losing ground, but she knew they had to keep pushing forward. There is strength in unity, she thought, her voice growing firmer. "Sir, progress is about creating something amazing together," she continued, looking directly at him. "You want a heart for this community, don't you? Well, this mural is the heartbeat. It tells our stories, our struggles, our hopes. It's not an eyesore, it's a lifeline." Silence hung thick in the air, punctuated only by the distant sound of a siren wailing. Faces turned expectantly towards the man, their eyes filled with a mixture of defiance and hope. The elderly woman squeezed Maggie's hand, her grip steady as a rock. "You've got this, dear. Speak from your heart." Maggie took a step forward, her breath steadying as she focused on the faces around her. "This mural is for everyone who has felt overlooked. For every kid who dreamed of something bigger. For every parent who fights to build a better life. For the grandparents who share tales of resilience. It's us, each and every one of us. She noticed the little girl had paused her painting, her brush hovering above the canvas. Maggie knelt down beside her. Sweetheart, what would you like to add next? The girl's face lit up. A rainbow. Because we're all different, but together we can make something beautiful. Yes. Maggie beamed, gratitude swelling in her chest. The tiny voice reminded her of the power of collective dreams. A rainbow it is. The girl painted vibrant strokes, and soon voices began to rise. Others chimed in, sharing stories of their lives, inspiring the crowd to pick up their brushes and paint again. We want our presence to be felt. We want to be silenced. They called, their colors spilling onto the canvas like a celebration of existence. Maggie stood, energizing the atmosphere, feeling waves of hope wash over the crowd. Let us give this mural life. Show him what we can be. Each brushstroke transformed a patch of wall into breathtaking stories of resilience. But still, the man stood unmoved, his posture tense and defiant. The crowd sensed a shift, a moment that could ignite a spark or shatter their collective hope. Laughter turned to uncertainty again as he interjected, "But who really cares? You think this will change anything? This is temporary, just a distraction." With the crowd stirring restlessly, an older man, his eyes glistening with wisdom, stepped forward. "We do. It's not about permanence, it's about the moment. It's about our legacy. We are more than our struggles, we have stories to tell." Maggie nodded, feeling unity swell. But in the back of her mind, doubt began to creep in. Was it enough? Would their voices drown out the fear of change that the man embodied? As they painted with fervor, she felt every heartbeat around her. They were alive, they were bold. Yet, deep within, the whisper of worry lingered. Would they really claim their space on that wall? The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows and giving an almost magical glow to the mural. Would that glow be enough to shine the light of truth over the darkness the man represented? Suddenly, a thought struck her like lightning. What if they could turn his indifference into awareness? She stepped closer to the man, determination igniting within her. "You may not see our stories as significant, but give us a chance. Let us show you that change doesn't happen to us, it starts with us. Will you trust us enough to let our voices be seen?" Silence surrounded them. Would he see the truth in her words? Would these moments of bravery shift the tide? Maggie felt the pull of 1,000 hopes converging in that moment. As the sun began to cast its final rays over their colorful canvas, would this bold stand be enough to transform not just the wall, but the entire community? Would they break down barriers together? The man's eyes narrowed, and Maggie held her breath. Was he considering? The crowd stood frozen, a collective heartbeat echoing in the charged air. She could feel their tension, a fragile thread connecting them, one that could snap at any moment, or maybe, just maybe, strand them all together in a beautiful tapestry of change. After what felt like an eternity, a flicker of something doubt, fear evaporated from his expression. Slowly, he cleared his throat, as if preparing to speak. Maggie felt her heart pound in her chest, the weight of their hopes riding on this single moment. "You think just a painting will create change?" he finally said, skepticism still laced in his tone. "What makes you think I care?" Maggie stepped back, momentarily startled, but she quickly grounded herself in the moment. "Because it's not just about the painting. It's about the stories behind it, the lives it touches, the hope it sparks." She gestured to the mural's beginnings, a swirl of colors that seemed to embody the collective energy of everyone standing there. "This is our voice. Each brushstroke is our story. And stories can ripple outwards, creating waves of understanding." He crossed his arms, visibly grappling with her words. Beside him, the elderly woman who had encouraged Maggie earlier leaned in closer. "We are not invisible. We want you to see us." There was fervor in her voice, years of experience echoing in her plea, resonating with the deepest truths of humanity. Maggie sensed the crowd shifting, a ripple of murmurs and nods flowing through the small gathering. They were steadfast in their resolve, and the man he looked increasingly trapped in a web of emotions he had tried so hard to deny. "Look around," Maggie urged, her voice rising above the crowd. "These are real people with real passions, hopes, and dreams. They want you to share in this moment with us." She pointed out the little girl, her small hands smudged in vibrant paint, focused on adding her rainbow. "Each color here tells a story, just like yours. This mural represents our past, our dreams, not just for this community but for you too." The man shifted uncomfortably, his tough exterior cracking slightly as the colors danced before him, each more vibrant than the last. The sun dipped lower, casting everything in warm golden hues, illuminating the mural and the emotions reflected on the faces of those around. Maggie pressed on, encouraged by the murmurs now rising to a swell. "Your life matters too, sir. Every story shapes us. Just think of what we could accomplish together if we embraced our differences instead of ignoring them." With each word, as if breaking through an invisible barrier, he began to soften. Just as she thought she was losing him again, the old man's voice broke the tension. "Give it a chance. Trust the light she is talking about. You might just be surprised at how powerful these stories can be." Maggie's heart soared as she caught glimmers of hope in the man's eyes. But there was still a long way to go. Would he step into that light with them? Would he join them in painting a brighter future? The paint dried on the wall, but the unease of the moment lingered like a thick fog. All eyes turned toward the man, waiting for his response, hearts racing in unison for the possibility of a breakthrough or the crushing weight of rejection. The seconds stretched, every face on edge with anticipation. The sun now barely clung to the horizon, creating an ethereal backdrop for what could be a life-changing moment. Would he see their passion? Would he let their colors in? Maggie stood her ground, waiting breathlessly, feeling time hang in the balance. Would the man choose unity, or would he pull away into the shadows again? The man's eyes flickered, and for an instant, it felt like the whole world stopped. The sun waned, casting deep shadows across the gathering, but they were also lit by a warmth, the shared energy of hope. Maggie held her breath, watching for the slightest change in his demeanor. Suddenly, his shoulders dropped, and a visible wave of exhaustion washed over him. "You really think this will make a difference?" he asked, almost to himself. It felt like a crack in his armor, a fragile opening that Maggie desperately hoped to widen. "We can create a ripple," she replied, her voice steady. "Each of us contributes a brushstroke, a story. Imagine what we could show the world. A community coming together." The crowd was tense, their face suspended in the air, waiting for him to make the next move. He looked around, his gaze flicking from the little girl with her rainbow strokes to the elderly man, who wore hope like a badge. Maggie noticed something change in him, a glimpse of curiosity lighting the depths of his eyes, overtaking the skepticism that had once ruled him. "People have tried to reach me before." His voice was low, gruff. "They thought they could save me with words. But these walls," he gestured broadly, "they've been painted over so many times. How do I know this time will be different?" Maggie stepped forward, her pulse racing. "Because this time, it's not about saving anyone. It's about sharing. This isn't just our mural. It's yours too. Come and join us. Add your story. We all have something to lose, but even more to gain." She could see the man's resolve flounder as he wrestled with her words. The crowd leaned in, an audience hoping for revelation. With a deep breath, he unfolded his arms, the tension easing just a bit from his face. "What if I have nothing to offer?" he asked, his voice cracking a little. The vulnerability in his stance, the way he stood there torn between past disappointments and present possibilities, it made Maggie's heart ache for him. "You have lived," she replied softly but firmly. Every experience you've had, every moment of doubt and pain, they are your story. And that story can teach us all. We need you. Just like we need each other. She took a step closer, daring to bridge the gap between them. Join us. Share your colors. Let us make this mural bloom with life. We will embrace the shadows as much as the light. For the first time, he let a small smile creep across his lips, tentative but real. Bloom, huh? Fancy words for a bunch of scribbles. Yes, she responded, a surge of hope igniting inside her. But they don't have to be scribbles. Together, we can create a masterpiece. Their laughter mingled in the air, a moment of connection that cut through the heaviness. The crowd erupting into scattered smiles, collective encouragement radiating toward him. But just as she thought the tide was turning, an unexpected stillness swept across the crowd. A man standing at the edge of the group shouted, "What if it's too late for him? What does he know about struggle?" It pierced the moment. Darkness tugged at the edges of their hope. Maggie felt her heart plummet. Would this one voice quash all that they had built? Maggie steadied herself, knowing they were on the brink of something big, but now her challenge was to turn this doubt back into light. She inhaled deeply, ready for the fight. Maybe it's not too late for any of us, she declared, searching for strength amid the murmurs. What if we listened and raised our voices together? I shifted back to the man, demanding a response. Would he stand tall with them, or would he retreat again, hidden in the shadows? A choice was forming, but what would it be? The man stood there, eyes darting, absorbing the weight of Maggie's words. It was more profound than she could have imagined. Every gaze in the crowd hung on him, and for a heartbeat, he looked like he was slipping back into the darkness. But deep within that flicker of hesitation, a small ember of resolve glowed. He cleared his throat, louder than before. What if I fall flat, huh? What if I mess it up? What if I don't belong here? Maggie felt a swell of empathy, reminding her of her own fears. Everyone carries scars, hidden under layers of pride or shame. What if you succeed? She countered lightly, leaning in closer. What if you inspire someone? A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Hope began to weave its way back into the air. Faces softened, eyes brightened. The doubt that once loomed over them was starting to dissolve, replaced with a warmth that seemed to cling to their skin. And let us be real, Maggie continued softly, who among us is perfect? We all have our battles. This is a safe space. Nobody here will judge you. Instead, we'll lift each other. One brushstroke at a time. The man looked around, and for the first time, he saw more than just spectators. He saw people, real faces alive with human experience and raw emotion. The little girl with the rainbow strokes, she gave him a tentative thumbs up. The elderly man, with eyes that sparkled with untold stories, nodded steadily in encouragement. Just add your color, Maggie encouraged gently, almost whispering. Even if it's just a swirl, it matters. Every mark makes this mural fuller, richer. His shoulders seemed to relax, as if shedding an invisible weight. You really believe that? That this old canvas means something? More than you know, Maggie replied, her heart racing. It can mean the world to someone. You might think your experiences don't matter, but they can touch lives, mine included. Let your story be part of this. It's time we stop hiding our truths. As the man gazed deeper into Maggie's inviting eyes, that small smile returned, bringing with it a bit of life. He shuffled forward, a hesitant act that felt monumental. All right, I'll try. I've got a few strokes left in me. The crowd erupted into cheers, a wave of support flooding towards him. The energy transformed from a flickering flame into a roaring fire. Voices rang out, yes. That's it. Welcome back. Their joy vibrated through the air, binding everyone closer together. Maggie stepped back, allowing him space to choose his colors, the palette wide open before him. As he dipped the brush into the paint, she realized that this moment was profound, not only for him, but for everyone present. Transformation was tangible, practically crackling in the air. But just as he began to paint, another voice called out, sharp and cutting through the buoyant atmosphere. What if your truth is a lie? What if your stroke becomes a stain? Stunned, Maggie's heart raced again. Would this doubt derail all the progress they had made? Tension flooded the air. The man paused, colors dripping from the brush, caught between uncertainty and vulnerability. Could he withstand the weight of one more critical eye? As silence enveloped the crowd once again, all she could do was hold her breath and hope that he wouldn't glance away, not this time. Would he face this new challenge or let the tide of doubt push him back into shadows? The man stood there, brush suspended in midair, the energy of the moment hanging like a taut string ready to snap. The voice that had interrupted him, harsh and accusing, created a crack in the fragile optimism that had been building. Maggie's heart raced as she scanned the faces in the crowd, watching for a hint of fear, for the look of someone who had suddenly lost hope. But then, from beneath a cloud of uncertainty, a flicker of defiance sparked in his eyes. He lifted his chin slightly, a small gesture that spoke volumes about the fight still alive within him. "What if it is?" he replied, his voice steadier now. "Then I'll own it, just like I own my past." The crowd held its breath for a moment, processing his words. There was a shift in energy, a subtle but powerful acknowledgement of something greater than individual fears. It was as if everyone was bracing for the unknown, waiting to see how he would navigate this new challenge. Maggie felt a rush of pride swell up in her. There it was, the reminder that vulnerability doesn't mean fragility. "Exactly," she echoed, her voice warm and encouraging. "Your journey is yours alone. You get to decide how it's told." The man looked at her, vulnerable but open. "I didn't think anyone would care about my story," he admitted, almost as a whisper. "Everyone cares," Maggie said, her heart racing in tandem with the excitement brewing in the crowd. "Sharing your truth is one of the bravest things you can do. That's how we connect, how we heal." He took a deep breath, and for a brief moment, the world around him seemed to fade away. He glanced down at the brush, then back at the vibrant crowd, each face reflecting his own struggle, each heart a tapestry of scars woven together. Inspired, he dipped the brush into a bold color, one that matched the throbbing beat of hope in his chest. With a sweep of the brush, he made a sweeping arc across the canvas, a fluid stroke symbolizing his past, a past that was not just full of darkness, but also the struggle for light. The action felt liberating, as if he was releasing a burden that had long weighed him down. More cheers erupted from the crowd, a resonating harmony of encouragement. "That's it," they shouted, feeding off his newfound courage. Suddenly, that same sharp voice cut back through. "But what if nobody understands? What if they don't see the real you?" The man paused again, color still dripping from the brush. His brow furrowed, then relaxed as he looked into the crowd, taking in the collective energy swirled with empathy and hope. Voices rang out, each person holding space for their own doubts while supporting him unwaveringly. The elderly man from earlier spoke up, "Understanding can take time, but creating is now. Isn't that what matters?" The man nodded slowly, processing the wisdom in the words shared among this tapestry of souls. For the first time, he didn't feel so alone. "All right then," he said, resolve filling him once again. "I'll paint my truth." The brush met the canvas again, and this time it felt different. Each stroke held more purpose, more freedom. But as the colors melded into a scene that spoke of resilience and hope, Maggie's gaze flicked back to the edge of the crowd. There in the shadows stood a figure, arms crossed, brow furrowed. As she squinted to get a better look, a chill ran down her spine. Who was that? And what did they want? Just like that, a new tension began to unfurl, threatening to overshadow the breakthrough occurring before her eyes. The reality of facing opposition was lurking once again, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to change, one way or another. Would they stand strong together against whatever was coming their way? Maggie's heart raced as she caught sight of the figure in the shadows. Tension surged through the crowd like static electricity, and she felt, deep in her gut, that they might need to brace for impact. But as the man before her continued to paint his truth, an exhilarating wave of unity washed over her. With every brush stroke he made, it was clear they were becoming something greater, an embodiment of fight, resilience, and truth. Taking a deep breath, she laid her hand on his shoulder. "Keep going," she urged, her voice warm and encouraging. "You're not just painting. You're standing tall in your story. We're standing tall with you." Beside her, Charlie nodded in agreement, his eyes blazing with encouragement. The crowd swelled with anticipation, ready to pour their stories into the mural, joining the man's journey with their own. Together, someone shouted from deep in the crowd, "We can show them what we're really made of." A chorus of voices erupted, each one lifting the other higher, drowning out doubt and fear. The man lifted his gaze, his eyes sweeping over the vibrant crowd, each face a testament of struggle and resilience. On impulse, he soared back into action, each stroke of paint a declaration of defiance against the shadows lurking on the edges. But then, the figure in the shadows stepped forward, drawing the attention of the group. With a sharp suit and an air of authority, he moved with purpose, eyes narrowing at the vibrant display of community spirit behind the mural. "This is ridiculous," he proclaimed, his voice slicing through the atmosphere like a cold wind. "You think a few strokes of paint will change anything? This is just a distraction." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Maggie's heart sank. That familiar dread crawled back up her spine. But as she looked around, she saw not fear but a collective spark simmering in each of them. She stepped forward, squeezing the man's arm before raising her own voice. "You don't see the beauty here? This mural represents hope, struggle, connection. It's a lifeline." His eyes flashed with disbelief. "And what impact will that ever have? Progress is measured in dollars and buildings." Maggie felt the heat rising in her cheeks. "No. It's measured in lives. In stories." She thought about all the people hidden away in corners, waiting for their voices to break through, for their stories to matter. This is a community coming together to claim its space. The crowd murmured in agreement, their collective spirit igniting anew. An elder man called out, "This is about heart. We're not just numbers on a budget sheet. We're families, memories, legacies." "Maggie's right," Charlie added, stepping forward with her. "These walls hold stories that have been brushed aside, but now they are changing. This mural is hope." Maggie felt the energy shift. The man in the suit hesitated, wrestling with the undeniable force of the crowd. Maggie saw a glimpse of uncertainty in his eyes and pressed on, using the moment to rally the group. "This isn't just our fight. It's about everyone whose story has been disregarded, neglected." As their voices baptized the streets with courage, the crowd became one. They held each other up, echoing Maggie's words, weaving them into an unbreakable connection. "Let him see!" someone shouted. "Let them all see!" Amidst their cries, the little girl tugged at Maggie's sleeve. "Will they be painted in too?" she wondered, her voice soft and hopeful. Maggie knelt beside her. "Yes, every color matters. You're part of this. We all are." The spirit of the crowd surged forward, and Maggie turned back, noticing the man in the suit caught between skepticism and the undeniable warmth of the crowd pressing in on him. Finally, he blinked and let out a shaky breath. "You really believe this will make a difference?" The momentum hung in the air, electric with possibility. "It already is," Maggie replied. "This is our story, your story. We can change the narrative together." As he hesitated, a ripple of voices surrounded him, all with the same sentiment, repeating that they mattered, they belonged. With tears welling up in her eyes, Maggie thought of all they had fought for, the realization dawning that this mural stood for something far beyond its walls. The man finally lowered his head and slumped his shoulders, a sigh escaping his lips. In that moment, something shifted. Maggie saw a flicker of understanding, a spark igniting in the man's eyes, a recognition that perhaps it had never been too late. "Okay," he whispered, almost shyly. "If it matters to all of you, it matters to me. I'll help." Just those words broke the tension. The crowd erupted in cheers, overwhelmed by the unexpected turn. Maggie beamed, knowing this was just the beginning. They moved closer, each person, each brush joining together to transform the canvas. The colors swirled like laughter and hope, and Maggie felt lighter than air, a sense of massive dreams converging into their singular destination. As the sun melted beneath the horizon, Jackie felt a cascade of relief wash over her. The canvas was coming alive with stories, a profound tapestry stitching despair into triumph. Would they all remember this moment? She hoped they would hold it forever as they took a stand. In that brief, shimmering moment, Maggie realized their struggle had changed the course of their lives. They had risen to claim their place, painting their truth on the city's walls, marking it with hope, resilience, and undeniable love. Remember this moment, she thought, as the world watched their colors ignite. The echoes of change were upon them, vibrant and unyielding. This had become more than just paint, it was their legacy. Even as night fell, it was clear their journey would not end here. The next chapter awaited them, and together, they would rise to meet it. Now, folks, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that could inspire your very own journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because your support truly makes a difference. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. This is your chance to be heard. And remember to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand how important supporting the channel through these actions is.